Oh, you took it back.
Green means go.
Okay, run. Okay, start.
Yep.
The February 16th meeting of the Eden Prairie City Council will now come to order. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prior to the start of each council meeting, we have an opportunity for Eden Prairie residents to address the council on city business. This open podium portion of the meeting is from approximately 6:30 to 6:55 here in the council chambers. If you wish to address the council at that time, please call the city manager's office at 949-8412 by noon of the meeting date with your name, your phone number, and the subject matter you wish to discuss. If there is time after scheduled speakers have completed their presentations, we will have time for impromptu addresses of the council. This portion of the meeting is not recorded nor televised, and again, if you need more information, contact the city manager's office. Tonight we have, the first thing on the agenda is a Lions Club donation for the Starring Lake Outdoor Center. Mr. Lotthammer.
Yes, Your Honor, council members, we did receive an additional contribution from the Lions Club. It's our second one already this year from their club, and it is $500, which goes towards the outdoor center and preschool furnishings, so things that are more appropriate in size for preschool children, which are many of the kids that visit the outdoor center, especially during the week for their preschool classes.
Great. Thank you. That's a very valuable donation from the Lions Club. We appreciate it. Is there a motion?
I would move to adopt the resolution accepting the donation in the amount of $500 from the Eden Prairie Lions Club for the purchase of preschool furnishings for the Starring Lake Outdoor Center.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. The next item is going to be a recap of our 2040-15 progress. In fact, our completion, our surpassing of goals for 2040-15. We had a presentation at a council workshop tonight, but this is more of a public presentation. And we have the two gentlemen directly involved with this program here with us tonight. Paul, do you want to start?
I can start. Good evening. My name is Paul Schluter. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Fleet Services Manager for the City of Eden Prairie. Joining me tonight is Paul Stika, the two Pauls, if you will. Paul is our Facilities Manager here. Before we start our presentation, I wanted to take just a short minute to acknowledge an individual that had a lot to do with the success of the 2040-15 program. Cliff Krakauer, who was going to be here tonight, but I don't see him in the audience yet. But he retired about a year and a half ago, for those of you that might remember. And prior to that, Cliff spent about more than 39 years as the Public Works Superintendent here with the city. And Cliff was instrumental in kind of laying the groundwork from the fleet services portion of the 2040-15 program. So just wanted to acknowledge his efforts and his work on that project as we talk about the successes of it this evening. I think it was, again, in a large part to the work and the effort that he put forward. So with that, we'll start kind of talking about 2040-15 on the fleet services side of things. I guess the initial goal of the 2040-15 from Fleet Services was to see a 40% improvement in our fleet fuel economy in 10 years. And then some secondary goals that went along with that were to increase the use of renewable fuels, reduce impact on the environment, and then reduce operating costs. Give you a little background. I guess to start with, to give you an idea of kind of the scope of this whole initiative, our current fleet profile, we operate 252 active vehicles and equipment in the fleet. And the size of that equipment ranges from big tandem axle dump trucks down to a small little electric utility vehicle. You can see this chart shows the annual miles driven of our fleet. And in 2015, we drove almost 1,700,000 miles. Seems like a lot of miles, but actually, if you divide that number into 252 active vehicles, it ends up being about 6,700 miles per vehicle, which is actually pretty small. I think most people realize your own personal cars, most people drive 10, 12, 15,000 miles a year. So 6,700 miles a year is not very much. And what that really translates to in a city operation is a lot of our equipment spends a fair amount of time idling and working on a job site. So it's not actually being driven and operated on the highway or on the road that frequently, which the only reason I make that comment is it just kind of shows how much more difficult achieving these fuel economy goals that we're talking about are, just because of the nature of the way that our vehicles operate. So what are the results? What happened? How did we do? Here's a chart that shows we actually ended exceeding our goal of 40% fuel economy increase in the fleet. In 2015, we ended the program with a 44.4% increase in overall fleet fuel economy. You can see by the chart it was a fairly even progression as we worked toward that goal. 2014, we had a little bit of a hiccup. The reason again for that is in 2014 we actually had 37 snow removal events in that calendar year, which is, I think, or at least a record in the last 10 or 15 years. I talked to our public works folks, and again, that was the most snow events that we've ever had in one calendar year in what they could remember. So again, and again, I'm sure you can understand that snow removal events are our most fuel-intensive activity that we do, which kind of explains why we had a little downturn in 2014, but we're able to come back here in 15 and see some positive results. So what does that mean for the city? What exactly did we accomplish by hitting that 44.4% improvement? I guess some key metrics here is over the last 10 years, the city has saved an estimated 304,458 gallons of fuel. If you take an average cost of $2.50 a gallon, that's a net savings of over $761,000. And we improved our fleet average miles per gallon from back in 2005 when it was 7.93 miles per gallon to currently in 2015 we saw 11.45 miles per gallon as our fleet fuel economy average. So how did we get there? What kind of strategies did we use to get to that number? And again, I'll kind of highlight a few of the major ones. We reduced our fleet size by 20 vehicles from 10 years ago. We replaced 29 gas engine medium and light duty trucks with B20 diesel, B20's biodiesel compliant diesel engine vehicles. We replaced 6 vehicles with hybrid electrics, including 2 Chevrolet Volt plug-in electrics, 3 Ford Fusions, and a Toyota Prius. We replaced 32 squad cars with cylinder deactivation management technology. Our Dodge Chargers, as you probably realize, squad cars spend a fair amount of time also idling, sitting on the side of the road, whatever the case might be. When they're doing that, these cars have engines that actually deactivate some of the cylinders of the engine, so they actually idle much more fuel efficiency than another vehicle type that would not have that feature. So again, those are some of the things. I guess a few more items. We replaced 11 full-size 4x4 vehicles with compact utility vehicles getting 20 plus miles per gallon. We implemented a Fuel Misers Award program, installed 2040-15 window stickers in our vehicles, a lot of kind of employee engagement activities to kind of increase awareness of fuel economy or fuel efficiency, to get our folks to get our employees and our operators more involved in the program. We reduced engine horsepower on our heavy-duty plow trucks to save fuel and better match the power curve of those vehicles with the work they were doing for optimal performance. And kind of last but not least, kind of as a general policy, we just made fuel efficiency a primary criteria when we were evaluating and selecting vehicles for replacement. Here's a snapshot of one of our plug-in electric Chevrolet Volts. It notes on the slide there that it's a 70 to 80 mile per gallon equivalent mileage. If you take the current cost for electricity and then even compare it with our fairly low fuel costs these days, which are about $1.40, $1.45 a gallon, The electric volt still comes out at an equivalent 70 to 80 miles per gallon MPG, which is very impressive. So moving forward in fleet services, obviously we plan to continue to right-size our equipment for optimal performance and economy. We're looking to phase in additional electric and hybrid type vehicles where it's cost effective and appropriate. Technology is changing rapidly. There's getting more and more offerings on electric and hybrid type vehicles. We're starting to see more and more medium duty trucks starting to take advantage of electric, hybrid electric drivetrains. So we will hopefully in the future be looking at some applications that we might be able to use some of those kinds of things. So again, that's pretty exciting for us. We want to continue our focus to reinforce positive energy conservation behaviors with all of our staff, in particular all of our operators of vehicles and equipment. And again, continue to review and evaluate alternative and renewable fuel options for the future. There's a lot of different options out there right now for renewable energy and alternative fuels. Most of those at this stage carry a pretty high upfront cost to implement. But with the technology and all the improvements that have been going on, those costs continue to get lower and lower and lower. And so hopefully here in the near future, as these opportunities continue to become more and more cost effective, we'll hopefully be able to look at those for our future vehicle operations as well. So I guess with that, I'll turn it over to Paul on the facility side.
Nice job, Paul. Okay, so the buildings group, the 20 and the 15 have a similar, check. 20 and the 15 have similar meanings, as Paul described. So the 20 is that we want to improve the energy efficiency in our buildings by 20%, and the 15 means we would like to do that by the year 2015. So the base year for comparison was 2005. We took our energy consumption in 2005, continuously compared it as we completed projects, and then the final report here compares it to 2015. So, and then some additional goals were to reduce impact on the environment and to reduce operating costs. So the results were also pretty good. We did end up increasing our energy efficiency by just under 22%, and some equivalence to that 22% number. It means that we reduced our energy costs by about just under $270,000 annually. I like to say if you look at every 4 years, we've reduced energy costs by about $1 million every 4 years compared to the baseline of the year 2005. And some other equivalents, we reduced consumption by 18 billion BTUs, that's a big number. And we've reduced our CO2, our metric tons of CO2 by 2,900, and we've taken, it's the equivalent of taking 625 vehicles off the road. So how did we do that? We completed about 50 projects over the 10-year period, and we did that in 5 phases. And generally speaking, the biggest projects were lighting projects. In just rough numbers, we've reduced our lighting costs by about $100,000 annually. Second big one was anytime we have to replace heating or cooling equipment in any of our buildings, we replace them with the most efficient equipment that we can get. And that was another big one. And again, in rough terms, that equates to about $60,000 annually. I'm going to go to the bottom one on the list. When we converted our Rink 2 from Freon refrigerant to ammonia refrigerant, we did 10 or 12 additional projects with that conversion, including things like low E ceilings in all 3 rinks. And we captured a lot of waste heat from the rink compressors, and we use that to heat the building. And that was another one where annual savings for all of those projects related to the Rink 2 conversion total about $60,000 annually. And then all of the other projects make up the difference. And we also installed solar panels at the community center. It was a small display project. That's one of the things we'd like to talk about in the future is do we expand solar panels at the community center and at other buildings. And each time we re-roofed any of our buildings, we added additional insulation during the re-roofing process. This isn't actually at the community center, but it is one of my favorite photos. So here we're adding insulation. This is at the community center. We did a re-roofing project to a part that was not affected by the aquatics expansion, and we roughly doubled the insulation value on that roof. And it doesn't matter if it's a residential furnace in a fire station or in a park shelter, or if it's a boiler system, or if it's a rooftop unit. Anytime that we do change that equipment, we like to get efficient burners and efficient cooling systems. And so moving forward, we're going to continue to do all of those same things. We still have buildings where we can replace lighting with LED or other efficient lighting systems. And same thing with, we manage about 30 buildings for the city, so there's a lot of heating and cooling equipment in those buildings. And so as that gets old and ultimately fails, we replace that with more efficient equipment. And a perfect example on the agenda tonight is a re-roof at the Den Road liquor store building. And so we will about double the insulation value on that roof when we re-roof it, and we'll be replacing 7 rooftop units with new efficient heating and cooling rooftop units. I believe that is it, unless there are questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. And as I mentioned at our workshop, when the city manager in 2006 was working out the plans for this program, I know that the 2040 goals were a stretch, that was going to be a lofty goal. And I know when I heard what the goal was going to be, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's really idealistic. I hope we can do it. But, you know, I'm retiring at the end of 2006. I won't be around to see this. But lo and behold, I'm back. And you made the goal, and you exceeded the goal. And it's just amazing. And I think the city, not just the city hall people, but the whole city, all the residents, owe a big round of applause to you two for spearheading this project and saving us a lot of money along the way. So thank you. And there is information about 2040-15 on our city website, right? So if people want to get some of this information, it's there. Thank you very much. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda and other items of business?
Second.
Anything to add?
I would like
yes.
to add one item under council member reports.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The next item is approval of the minutes from the council workshop held on Tuesday, February 2nd.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any corrections to those? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I understand I can vote for it even though I was not.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say I'd have to abstain as I wasn't there. So.
okay. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes from the council workshop held the same, or pardon me, from the council meeting held that same date?
Move approval.
Second.
Any items to correct there? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anything to pull for discussion?
I just want to add a comment about A. I've
Okay.
had so many residents over the last 15 years say, Ron, if you all could ever get another lane where that squeezes there on Preserve Boulevard, and that's what this is. I think people, correct, will be fairly excited about this because that's been a bottleneck for several decades. So I'm really pleased to see that.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Our first public hearing tonight is the vacation of drainage and utility easements over Lot 1, Block 2, Augusta Edition, Cal Point. Mr. Getchell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a housekeeping item for a vacation of an easement. You may recall At the last council meeting, you approved the Cal Point grocery development project on Pioneer Trail. This is a follow-up or a part of that project where the owners have requested a vacation of the drainage and utility easements to facilitate their plat and ultimate building construction. They were originally dedicated as part of the previous plat. So in order to accommodate the new building, they would like these easements vacated, and then they will dedicate all new easements with the new project. And we've also conditioned that on that the release of these would be conditioned on the recording of the new easements as well.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Getchell? Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience that wants to address the council on the vacation of these easements? Okay. Is there a motion?
Seeing none, I would move that we close the public hearing and adopt the resolution vacating the public drainage and utility easements lying over, under, and across Lot 1, Block 2, Augustus Addition, Hennepin County, Minnesota.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item is a Shady Oak expansion. Mr. Getchell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a resolution for a planned unit development concept review and also an ordinance for planned unit development district review with waivers and a zoning district amendment on 6.78 acres. The location is 6775 Shady Oak Road. This is a proposed plan for a one-story, 30,400 square foot warehouse building addition. The existing 50,200 foot square office warehouse structure was originally constructed in 1982. At that time, the materials were compliant with city code, but following construction of this building, our code was amended to revise the material requirements, making this structure a legal non-conforming use. So the applicant has designed the new addition to significantly exceed the required 75% on primary exterior building materials, and the proposed addition includes the use of required exterior building materials at the 95.2% ratio to bring the overall building into compliance with this addition, which is a positive thing. And then the existing building is proposed to be painted to match the addition. The parking requirements are met through the existing parking stalls and the proposed proof of parking. I think you saw the number of spots actually outnumber the number of proposed employees, so that isn't an issue. And there is also a proposed bicycle rack and new landscaping and screening from Shady Oak Road. The Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of this project 6-0 at their January 25th meeting. And Paul Schrader from Westwood is here representing the applicant to provide further detail and to answer any questions you may have, in addition to staff answering any questions you may have prior to the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and esteemed members of the Council. My name is Paul Schrader from Westwood. I've been retained by our client who is joining me tonight, Doug Giesland, who is part of the Nordic Group and Midland Garage Door. And they are a business that has bought the property at 6775 Shady Oak Road in hopes of moving their distribution site from Chaska to Eden Prairie. So they are your new neighbors, and they are excited to be here. And as part of their business, they manufacture garage doors in the Fargo, North Dakota area, and they bring them to the different regions for installation and sale. And one of the locations in the Twin Cities is currently in Chaska that they are looking to move to the Eden Prairie location. The business currently is leased to somebody else who is going to probably move out in the next year, and they will move their business in shortly after in hopes of maybe being maybe in 2017 in full operation. As part of their purchase of the property, they were looking at expanding their building to accommodate a little bit more storage space for their building. And we brought along some 11 by 17 plans just to kind of illustrate, probably similar to what you have in your council packets. Tonight we're looking at doing a building expansion of a little over 30,000 square feet, along with the existing 58,000 and change existing building, to accommodate a little extra storage space and some additional garage doors. As part of our application, we recognize that there are some code requirements that we had to navigate through with city staff, and we are asking for 3 waivers tonight. One of them being with the building materials, just like the presentation had stated, the existing building is not very conducive for additional building materials because structurally it's more of a metal clad building and not a footing and foundations building where you can add brick, you can add block, so it makes it very difficult and challenging for the new owner to come in and do any major modifications without redoing the whole building. So as part of our resolution with city staff, we decided that we would take the new building and instead of doing the 75% architectural treatment, we would try to do as much as we can with the new building, almost 100%, excluding the doors, and provide that as a compromise for the existing building that it's hard to do anything structurally. And then in addition to that, we decided that painting the existing metal building to be similar in color to the architectural building that we're putting up makes a lot of sense. So we're going to do the same striping bands, we're going to do a similar color palette, so from the outside it kind of looks very similar. I think that was a good choice to do that. And then in addition to that, our landscaping plan, we've added some additional landscaping along the east side to help navigate a little bit of that view corridor from the public street. And we've added a lot more screening on this side at the request of city staff to kind of help buffer a little bit of the loading dock side that you can see from Shady Oak Road. The building does sit up quite a bit higher than the road, so on this side it might be 15 feet higher than the road, so it isn't like looking down into the loading docks, but I believe that we accomplished some good landscape buffer and screening. Architecturally, I think that we kind of accomplished that. We thought it was a good compromise with working with staff on how we were approaching that. So our waiver on that one, we're asking for just having the existing building be granted that waiver since we can't meet that 75% architectural treatment. The other 2 waivers involve a little bit more of the site plan. As you can see right here, we have an existing parking lot that, due to extreme grades on the east side, has a very steep slope, probably somewhere between a 2-to-1 and a 3-to-1 slope. And when they built the building originally in 1982, they sandwiched the parking into what was left between the building and the steep slope. It doesn't really meet code requirements for parking dimensions according to today's code. So we are asking for a variance, or I'm sorry, a PD waiver for that existing parking to remain as is, as we're a little bit short on that. We also know that we need some additional parking per the code requirements, and that additional parking isn't necessarily what our client needs for their operations, but if they were to sell the building someday, we got to prove the point that we can provide the parking if needing to do that. As the narrative has stated, their employee count is probably only going to be around 30 employees for the business, and we're providing over 100 parking stalls with the proof of parking, so obviously it didn't make a lot of sense to add another 40 parking stalls when they're not even going to use the 16 that are, or 60 that are out there today. So our 2 waivers are involving the parking. One is to allow us to use the existing parking with the dimensions that they have, but also the proof of parking, the extension area, which is this area right here, to be similar to that because we're dealing with the same condition with the steep slope on the outer perimeter and then the building on the inside. So with that, that concludes a little bit of our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? It looks like a big improvement over what is there now, and I appreciate the effort that you're making to increase the aesthetics of the building and enhance the landscaping. That's really great. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience that wants to address the council on this expansion? Okay.
Okay, seeing none, I move to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution for planned unit development concept review on 6.78 acres and adopt first reading of the ordinance for planned unit development district review with waivers and zoning district amendment within Industrial Park I-2 zoning district on 6.78 acres and direct staff to prepare a development agreement incorporating staff and commission recommendations and council conditions.
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much for bringing your business to Eden Prairie. We'll see you in 2017. Okay, great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Payment of claims. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Second.
Any items to question? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Keys,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Mayor Tara Lukens.
Aye. Reports of council members. Mr. Aho, you had something you wanted to bring up?
Yes, as you all know, that I've been on the I-494 Corridor Commission for pretty much my entire time as being on the council, and so I wanted to just kind of give you a brief update as to how we're doing and kind of what's going on. I've been chairing that organization now for a while, and so tonight I just wanted to give you a little brief presentation and just talk to you a little bit about some changes that we've got going on. So with that, I'll try to keep it brief. All right, can we bring up the, here we go. All right, so first, let's see, let's get it to the first slide here. Get it to the first slide here, just a second. Here we go. All right, so basically the 494 Corridor Commission is it's a 5-member city organization: Eden Prairie, Edina, Bloomington, Richfield, and Minnetonka. And as part of our commission, we advocate for transportation improvements along the corridor, the southwest area of metro area, to just mitigate congestion and improve air quality. And so we have a 2016 budget that we just approved, and our total budget is $472,000 and change. And of that budget, $303,000 comes from the federal government through what's called CMAQ grant, and that's Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Grant. And that passes through the Met Council to our organization. And we also have state funding this year of $77,000. The rest of that is $91,778 is through local contributions, and Eden Prairie, of course, is one of those. And so our current amount that we're getting from each of the 5-member cities was 30 cents per resident per year. We did increase our dues to 32 cents per resident per year this year, and so that'll make up that $91,000. We needed to increase that a little bit. One of the budgeting issues that we've had recently is that CMAQ. The federal government changed kind of the CMAQ requirements in that they made it so that we couldn't use the full amount of CMAQ money towards administrative costs, like some of our staff use and building. We have to rent an office at the Edina Community Center, things like that. We couldn't use it for that anymore at a full match. So we've had to make up a little bit of money to accommodate that, and so we've been fortunate to get some of that from the state to make that up. But anyway, as part of our corridor commission, we also have the Transportation Management Organization, or a TMO, and we call that Commuter Services, and there's about 5 of those in the Twin Cities region, and Commuter Services is one of those. And so I just wanted to give you a little presentation that they've put together for me to present to you. So really, the partnership is with employers and with residents to really reduce congestion. And so one of the ways we do that is we work with companies, and we try to coordinate. Our staff meets with companies. Right now, we currently have 895 companies that we're working with, and we work with them in providing alternative methods for getting to and from work, for commuting. So that little graphic kind of gives you an idea of what we do. We do bus, trains, carpooling, bicycles, and walking. And we've had 135 commuter fairs on site with large employers and multi-tenant office buildings. So we work with like Best Buy, we work with, at their campus in Richfield, we work with Mall of America, quite a few large organizations. We provide free employer resources, so we help them with getting discounted transit pass programs. We work with them on carpool and van parking, outdoor bike racks. We give them a lot of great information just to help them and help their employers or employees to find other ways to get to work without continuing to add congestion. We also offer individualized commute assistance. So if someone wants to find a way to get to work besides a single occupancy vehicle, we offer ride matching, helping them to find other people in their area or at their company that could be a match for them to ride and carpool or van pool. So we help establish those van pools and carpools. We also work with a personalized trip itineraries. So if they want to take the bus and bike part of the way, we'll help them with finding a way to do that, what the best route is and how they can go about what resources they're going to need. We offer bike commuting resources, and then also there's a guaranteed ride home program. And then also telework has really been an important part recently. And last year we had a big grant that we received, a federal grant, and we worked with a lot of companies on telework. And you probably saw some of the ads last year that were out about the telework, and that was a very successful program. Okay, currently in Eden Prairie, some of the people we're working with Optum Campus, and Optum has recently decided to put a subsidy of $25 per passenger per month towards a Metro Pass. So that's a really nice benefit for their employees so that they can get to work using the entire Metro system, which is really nice. There's also orange bikes that are free bicycles to check out at the campuses, so employees can ride from campus to campus or go out to lunch with them or whatever they need to do. In the Golden Triangle Technology Center, we're working with financial incentives for regular carpoolers, bus riders, and bicycle commuters, and that's in the whole center area. Working with Mammoth and Webco, SuperValue, and Starkey has a very robust program that we're working with them, and we help to manage the program for them. So they sell discounted bus passes on their site at Starkey at a 50% reduction of retail price, and they pick up the match for that. The Starkey Corporation does. And they provide $75 a month per employee towards van pooling. They currently have 3 van pools. They also put money towards carpooling and preferential parking, and they also have showers and bike racks. Here's just a list of the Eden Prairie employers that we're currently working with, some of the larger ones, just to give you an idea of who is involved. So you can see it's quite a list of the top companies in Eden Prairie. We're also doing consulting and implementation of TDM plans, so travel domain management plans for companies. So to help them to meet their goals, we're working to help them develop those TDM plans. So just to kind of give you a result of what some of our work has accomplished, the annual report summary for last year, for 2015, was that we achieved 871 new carpoolers, 561 new transit riders, 558 new bicycle commuters, 323 new teleworkers, and 25 new van poolers. And so of that, 2,338 drive-alone commuters really switched to go to a better way to get to work. And that results in quite a large saving. Approximately, if we calculate using the averages, that results in 325 or 35.25 million vehicle miles avoided. So 35 million miles, which is a lot. Which, for a small staff, that's pretty impressive, I think. So that's the end of the presentation. Then I just wanted to just talk to you about we have legislative. You've probably seen our legislative positions that we're promoting, and so we use these legislative positions and we bring these to all of our legislators and we promote it to pretty much anyone who will listen. But some of the things, kind of the major headings, are transportation management organizations. We really need some, to get sustainable funding for the match that we lost through CMAQ, and so we're working with our legislators to try to gain that amount so that we don't have to charge that to all of our residents through increased dues. And we're working on 494-35W interchange is really kind of our biggest push right now to try to get that interchange redone. And that has a large component with transit through the new BRT line going up 35W. If that line goes through, that interchange will have to be redone. And so what we'd like to see is have it redone and fixed also for all of the buses and cars and other vehicles that use that interchange, not just for the bus line, because otherwise it would have to be redone twice. But currently MnDOT doesn't have it on the slate to do it right now, so we're really pushing hard to see that be done all at one time. And we're also working on jobs through transit improvements and also economic development, our TED program, Jobs Through Transportation Economic Development. And so we've got quite a few projects that we're working on with that. And with that, that's kind of the end of the presentation, but I just invite you all to attend. On February 26th, we're going to be holding a meeting. We're having all of our local legislators are invited, and mayors to come to an event we're going to be holding at the Bloomington City Hall. And then after that meeting in the morning, it's from 7:45 to 9:15, and at 9:30 to 10:30 we'll have a tour of the Orange Bus Line after that. So you're all welcome to attend. And our transportation commissioner Charlie Zelli will be there, and he'll be doing a presentation. So it should be an interesting meeting. So,
thank you for your years of working on that commission and your leadership to that group. Are the staff members that are working to help residents develop ways to get to work, are they also using that suburb bus service that's opened?
Yes, the new suburb to suburb. We are heavily working with Southwest Transit to help promote that, and so all the companies, all the relationships that we have with the businesses has really been very beneficial, because we can go to all those businesses knowing where they are and then promote that new line to them. Where Southwest Transit doesn't necessarily have those connections to those businesses, but we're regularly talking to them. So it's been very beneficial for us to work closely with Southwest Transit.
Wonderful. Thank you. I just wanted to add one thing to Councilmember comments, and that is to give a big thank you to our public works staff, the plowing staff. I'm sure all of you have gotten comments from friends and neighbors appreciative of the great job that our plowing department has done this year. I just want to read an excerpt from one letter that I received. I wanted to compliment your snowplow crews for work done on Eastern Riverview Road yesterday, February 2nd, 2016. Your crews did a much better job than the state, the county, and surrounding cities. It's a tough road to plow, but the Eden Prairie crews did a great job again. So these are the kind of comments that we as council members hear all the time about what a wonderful job your staff is doing, so thank you. Let's see, the next thing we have is Mr. Getcho, the resolution endorsing pollinator-safe policies and procedures.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, the last item of the evening. So I believe it was one of the last meetings of the year, if not the last meeting of the year, you had brought to the City Council and then to staff concept of the city looking into researching policies and procedures in a resolution that establishes our city and our practices as pollinator friendly. That had come off some of the concerns and discussions that are occurring out there with the use of neonicotinoids that are out there. But as it turns out, I mean, that may have been what kind of the neonics may have brought that forward to the council, but when we sat down with some of the groups and organizations and ultimately with our Park Commission and Conservation Commission, we were able to lay out several different areas where I think we as a city, as Eden Prairie, has been pollinator friendly, but also in relation to the herbicides and the pesticides, to make a statement that we do not want to use many of these items and that we want to be environmentally friendly. So tonight we have before you a resolution endorsing pollinator safe policies and procedures that has gone through the staff and has been recommended for approval by the Parks and Recreation Commission as well as the Conservation Commission. And I'll just mention the entire resolution's just over one page, but there's maybe 6 or 7 bullet points that we lay out in the resolution that I can quickly go over. You know, as I said, the first was to emphasize biological controls over pesticides in public places, including parks and right-of-ways, to limit the use of pesticides with an emphasis, as I mentioned earlier, about avoiding the use of pesticides in the neonic family, to purchase plant vegetation that's favorable to pollinators, to identify actively maintain areas that can be converted back to native habitat. So that's something we were discussing with what can be our successor program to 2040-15, or what are some of those things we can do as a Green Step City? That is one of the things that we're doing, and it's also very pollinator friendly. To provide spaces that can be managed to educate the public on pollinator friendly practices, to also encourage private developers and private development, not just city development, to incorporate pollinator safe plantings into their landscaping, and to maintain a list of plant species that are pollinator friendly. So there was some discussion, maybe you've seen through the emails that you've gotten, also even at Open Podium tonight. There are a few more items out there that some of the organizations wish us to look at, and we will do that. There was some discussion at the Conservation Commission about taking the word naturalized out, where it's included with natives in one of the items. And the Conservation Commission felt that there are still many naturalized that aren't necessarily native, and I guess you can also debate native to where the state, the Midwest, or the country, but they're pollinator friendly. But as was mentioned earlier, we will take a close look at our city code and our species of plants to evaluate that this summer. But the feeling was that that could really limit a lot of rain garden plantings and other plantings in the community, but we do want to look into that. And also on your table, there was, I would call it a typo. I think we misstated herbicide, and we should have said pesticide. So we did put an updated version of that resolution in your packet. And Leslie Stovering, our environmental coordinator in our engineering division, was the person that pulled together this resolution. There were meetings again with the mayor and council members, but also with staff and our parks department, as well as the commissions that I mentioned and all the liaisons for the commission. So there was quite a bit of work put into this, and we're very pleased with the resolution we have before you tonight, being one of only a small, very handful of communities that would pass a resolution declaring being a pollinator safe community.
Any questions for Mr. Getchell? Councilmember Case.
Just a comment, really on bullet number 4. I'm really pleased on every one of these bullets, and I'm really happy that we're moving in this direction. I've as really Nancy and Sherry, all three of us since the beginning in the 90s have argued to try to get more natural areas. Why are we mowing so much? And we've done that. I mean, even around City Hall here, we've extended the non-mowed area down, but there's still that mowed area up. And I just wonder, are we getting close to maybe an attitude shift of, rather than looking at what can we let go wild, what do we have to mow? I mean, we have to mow certain areas for safety. We may want to mow back from a road certain distances to keep trees and brush from growing up, but that's a different kind of an attitude. That means everything else then goes wild. I just wonder if we're getting closer to that idea, and it has water preservation issues. It has all kinds of potential here for pollinator plants to be in those areas, and and it really brings out a little bit more of our prairie and Eden Prairie, and I think politically, I think we're moving. Maybe it was difficult in the '90s. I just feel like there's a bit of a different attitude now for what is beautiful. And then to that point on item 6, it may mean continuing to look at our code, which we've done in the past, but we currently have some code that if you let bluegrasses or whatever hit a foot, you're slapped with a lien and it's mowed and all that. And so looking again at what does natural mean, if you let a bluegrass area go wild after, so many years, it's no longer looking like bluegrass gone wild. It's now, whatever wild. And I forget the book that I read, but the statement I remember is that across the United States of America, there is no indigenous lawn grass. It's all brought in. So to that point, though, there's likely then very little in our wild areas that, in fact, in the same book, it was something like up to 90% of the plants now in the United States of America are not indigenous to this country. That being said, then native and wild may begin to be perceived as different and still valuable to let things go unmowed and kept up the way it's been. So anyway, just a thought to continue to move on 4 and 6 and what that may look like, along with some other areas that you've talked about.
And maybe to add to that, so there may be some higher profile areas where people might say at our 4 fire stations, and those we intend to do quite a bit of this at those stations, and those can also be replicated or educational pieces as well, like we have at our water plant. So we've got a lot of work that utilities is doing with the well houses that we don't need to mow anymore. Now we're looking at the fire stations. We're looking at a lot of areas. But there have been people, when the city center was one example, where it was mentioned how ugly that looks now that it's not being mowed. My personal opinion is that's changing, but a lot of it is communication and education and the dollars that you're saving as a city as well. But still, it takes time. I think our Park and Rec Director would say in a lot of these situations where we move toward a more prairie setting, it doesn't happen overnight. It isn't a matter of just having a planting and then it looks like a beautiful prairie 6 months later. It's more like 2, 3, 4 years. So we also have to have some patience.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I've got a couple of things. This happened to have come up at a discussion with a group of people at lunch the other day. And I had several people ask me, okay, what are these things that you're going to get rid of, and how does this affect how I might be using them in my own lawn? Can I still kill crabgrass, or what can't I do with this? I think it's a little higher or lower level of knowledge, maybe by many homeowners, about what we're doing. How will this change for them?
So that's a great question, because almost every item in here applies to our own city operations and what we would use and not use. And then when we talk about private property, that's when we talk about education, encouragement, or communication. So unless, Leslie, you're aware of any immediate impact on private property and homeowners, I'm not aware of that. I know that, in the instance of a couple products that have come up that we've used to eliminate buckthorn, or we've done some weed control on our public properties, which are adjacent to private properties, and people want us to keep doing that, we've had a couple questions on that, where we're trying to find ways to use herbicides to eliminate weeds, again, on public property, but do it in a targeted way at the right time of the year that doesn't hurt the pollinator population. So that we hear more about how will this affect other public property, because as you see in here, it's still important to maintain certain right-of-ways and for certainly turf managed park fields as well. But this isn't aimed at or is an ordinance regulating private use of property.
Okay, are we going to actually encourage, like, say, lawn maintenance people that many neighborhoods hire, sometimes as whole organizations, sometimes as individuals, to consider using products that don't have these in it?
Yes. I mean, again, I think there's a difference between what someone is regulated to do and what we might encourage them to do.
And can we put something up on the website so that if someone's going in to say, okay, I like bees, I don't want to use it, but please somebody tell me what it is I'm not supposed to use? It's not the kind of thing when you use these long words and chemicals that a lot of people are still trying to figure out what shouldn't be in their food. And they would, do the right thing if they could still maintain their lawn and do it if somebody told them what to avoid and what to use.
Absolutely. We want to get as much information out there and educate the public on what might be available that wouldn't have a negative impact on taking care of their property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and these organizations have lists of the brand names for all of that.
But it would be nice if the city either had a link into it or
we can do
did
that.
just something that
Certainly.
was very user-friendly.
Yeah.
The other thing I was looking at, it talks about doing the plant list, and it had referred to the Blue Thumb website, which I did take a look at. And, it did occur to me some of these areas on city property people might be happier with, that both was trees and flowers and grasses. There were some actually beautiful flowers that are sort of wild and grow into this kind of thing. Maybe if we started seeding some of the areas as well with some of the more attractive butterfly attractors and bee pollinators, which grasses don't necessarily do much for, or even less popular ones that butterflies like and such, like milkweed pod. That might be more to the point other than just letting it grow wild, and maybe not encourage people to plant things like some grasses with the burrs on them that nobody much cares for, or encouraging people to plant lots of cottonwood trees that many people don't find great next to them. But I was amazed at what a wealth of plant life and tree life. I discovered several of the trees in my yard were actually the kind that were supposed to be there. So I think we should encourage people to look about this list, but if we're making a list, maybe we don't do the burrs and the cottonwoods that appear on the list, or that style of things. We take into consideration some of that, and then upgrade some of our wild areas so that people love having them.
I'm glad to see dandelions aren't on the pollinator-friendly list.
They're not indigenous.
No, but you'd be surprised if you looked at all the plants that were on that list, and I was very pleasantly surprised by that list, and it came from one of the northern suburbs, so it was all friendly to this area.
Thank you. Councilmember Butcher Wickstrom.
Yes, I was just going to say that really this resolution can have a very big impact on the city, and I think the health of the bee population, the butterfly population, because I think the percentage is something like 37% of our land is in open space. Now, we don't own all of that, but I was thinking that I could really see the schools getting involved and students participating, And the other thing that I've seen that I thought was really interesting and important for me when I first became aware of this issue, and I was looking at landscapes in other places, and I would look at something and think, wow, that seems so out of place. This was a couple of years ago. But because there were signs that said, butterfly garden,
Right.
there were educational indicators that it's like, this is important to note, that you may not see it visually as what you're used to seeing it, but there's a reason that it's here. So, I just thought this could be really exciting with our open spaces and other of our partners getting involved in it. So I love the idea of it.
Great. Is there a motion?
I would move to adopt a resolution endorsing pollinator-safe policies and procedures.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I want to thank the advocates that brought this to us, and our city commissions that took a lot of time to make sure that we did this the right way. And I'm excited. I hope some other cities get on board with all this.
I hope it's
Thank
just
you.
the beginning.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
Me too.
Thank you. Anything else to bring before the council? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.